Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud? And tonight's episode is on how negative core beliefs derail communication. I think this is a very important subject because this is how we miss each other. And when we miss each other, we miscommunicate and we disconnect, and then we fall into chaos, defenses, and breakdowns, which I will all explain to you in a mind map format, which is something that I created years ago as a pathway to healing. Originally healing global disconnect, and then bringing it down to a micro version of healing human disconnect. So just a little bit about what is a negative core belief. A negative core belief is a belief that you came to buy into because your parents said so about you or signaled so about you. Let me give you a few examples. For example, if your parents called you stupid, you're not going to turn to your parents and say, "Are you kidding me? This is horrible parenting skills. How dare you call me stupid? You should take some parenting classes." You don't do that as a kid. You buy right into it and you conclude that you are stupid, and you form this negative core belief that enters your psyche and then keeps spinning around in your head and gets re-triggered by people, circumstances, test scores, bosses, and on and on and on. And these negative core beliefs derail communication. So, of course, I'd love to hear from you. First, I'm going to get into more negative core beliefs and what happens when we buy into them and when we believe in them so deeply that everything is filtered through them. So let's go to the mind map so that I can give you a little bit of a background as to what the Freud is going on. So if you look at panel number 1, you see the wound, which represents a lot of things. It represents all of the wounds of childhood, such as physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, abandonment, smothering, controlling, narcissistic treatment by parents, and by which I mean when parents lack empathy, they are not able to put themselves in your shoes, they're not attuning and mirroring you, and therefore they are disconnected from you, and you don't feel a sense of safety and priority to them. And of course, I've talked a lot about narcissistic abuse, and I wanted you to know my definition of narcissistic abuse, which is a system gone wrong where the parents lack empathy and they put their own feelings before their children. And that goes with control and manipulation and betrayal and gaslighting and all kinds of words that you're probably already familiar with. So when we're wounded at the causal level, I like to call it, meaning the cause being our multi-generational blueprint, our parents' parents, their parents, they pass on multi-generationally these wounds. And then as a result of these wounds, we react to these wounds. And in these reactions, we can be triggered into feeling scared, insecure, unsafe. We can be triggered into feeling anxious. We can fall into depression. And the amygdala, which is the primitive part of the brain that doesn't have any ability to really cognitively analyze the situation, will simply react. And so then we start getting stuck in these reactions, and they form reactive patterns within us. And then all of these wounds and reactions eventually encode into the fiber of our being in the form of these negative core beliefs. So let me give you more examples. If you're treated with apathy, okay, you might conclude that you don't matter. If you're treated with a sense of control or manipulation, you might conclude that you're only a human doing and not a human being. And these core beliefs are really numerous. And Dr. Albert Ellis, who is the founder of cognitive behavior therapy, describes these negative core beliefs as limiting core beliefs because they limit you. They limit you because your worldview is like a cracked lens. So if you look at panel 2, you will see a picture here of cracked glass, or cracked lenses, I like to call it. And these distortions, therefore, color and distort your world. So in essence, when you've been cracked up, when you've been disconnected from, when you haven't been attuned and if you attuned and mirrored, then you see the world through the perspective of your injuries. And then when these injuries conclude into these negative core beliefs, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not lovable enough, then we have now here a panel 3 encoding, which I refer to as the psychovirus because it goes deep in, it's viral, it generates, it keeps reverberating in your head, and it doesn't stop because in essence, you have now bought into your parents' belief about you, and now that's what you believe about you as well. And when that happens, it sets up a very, very disconnecting template for communication. So this is where I'm going to get into some examples because my shows are always inspired by my clients. And I see this a lot in the treatment room. I see people who really want to get through to each other. They genuinely want to connect. They genuinely want to be heard and understood. And then as much as the other person tries to, they can't. And why can't they? Because this template of a negative core belief shadows over the communication, distorts the whole thing, and then down they go into panel 4, 5, 6, which is my chaos, defenses, and breakdown panels. And they represent the disconnect. The chaos is where everything goes awry, things are not in alignment, the relationship starts to fall apart, and then people get even more defensive. They take positions, I call them isms. They start isming, meaning I, and not we. It's all about I and me. And then at the end of the ism formation, there is a clash of the isms because they're not really coming together at all because there's no interconnection, of course. You can see in panel number 6, there is no interconnection. The two isms are clashing and there are sparks in between, and those are not love sparks. They're actually pretty aggressive, and they're charged, and they don't really create an interconnected, communicative, growth producing relationship. So I might get a couple in, and one might say to me, you know, my husband just doesn't understand me. I'm trying to tell him how he hurt my feelings, and I'm being authentic about it, and I'm doing the best that I can to communicate all of this to him. And the next thing I know, he says something like, oh, so you don't think that I'm good enough for you, or you don't think that, you know, no matter what I do, it's never enough. So even if the person doesn't say it in those clear words, the inside process of the person is that they're not hearing that the person is upset about such and such and so. They have a filter going through them, okay? The filter is the blockage between the other person, and this filter is that negative core belief, which then derails the conversation, because all that's happening in that conversation is that the other is being triggered. And instead of being able to put themselves aside, there is no putting themselves aside because they're in trigger land. And so this template of I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I'm not smart enough, whatever it is, shadows the communication, disconnects the persons, the people, And then the other one feels misunderstood, not attuned to, certainly no mirroring is involved. And then people take harsher positions. They start defending, they start alienating and shutting down from each other. They start attacking each other. They start really destroying the relationship. So I want to hear from you, because I want to hear how your negative core beliefs derail your relationships, and what you're hearing and what they're saying and why it's not getting through and why it's sending you in chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. And while you're thinking about calling in, don't think about it. Pick up the phone and just call in. And while I'm waiting for a call in, let me tell you a little bit more about me and the Psychological Healing Center and the mind map system, which is something that I created many years ago as a pathway to healing. And everybody can learn it, because it's something that if you learn, you can not only understand yourself and learn how to think like a shrink, you can also prevent yourself from falling into chaos, defenses, and breakdowns. So the mind map is a pathway from the injuries of the past and identifying those injuries and identifying the results of those injuries, which are these negative core beliefs, and then dismantling them, identifying defense mechanisms, which again lock you in a kind of a psychological prison, which makes you even more resistant to hearing and derails the conversation even further, and then finally breaks the whole relationship down while you break down with it. And then you've got to put yourself back together again and hope that you learn something from it. And usually people don't, unless they really take the time to analyze and understand and take apart what the Freud has happened here. Because we don't learn if we don't go back over things and step by step take the time to understand. All we do, as many of you know, is repeat the past. And some people walk into my office and say, why do we have to go back to the past? I just want to move on. I want to forgive. I want to forget. Well, guess what? The unconscious mind is a very powerful place, because the unconscious mind holds all of this body of information in the form of pain and symptoms and patterns that keep repeating. And until we bring the unconscious to a conscious state and shed the truth light on it, nothing really gets revealed. And when nothing gets revealed, nothing is learned. And when nothing is learned, we keep repeating the past. So it's not possible to just sweep it all under the rug and move on. I've had people try it, and then the rug gets really thick, and then you pick up the rug and it's dusty under there and full of bugs and mold and dirt and, I don't know, cat balls and dog hair and whatever goes under the rug. And then they're just sick with symptoms. And as I like to say, symptoms are the hieroglyphics that point to cause. Because if you've got a lot of symptoms, if you've got a lot of repeat patterns, if you've got a lot of disconnect with partners, then you know that you're symptomatic. So now we've got to pick up that rug and look underneath there and see what the Freud is going on. I don't know if that flash was a call, was it? Not sure. Was somebody trying to call in?
Actually, we do have a call.
Okay, I welcome the call. Thank you. I love talking to you rather than talking to a screen. So hello and welcome to Dr. Judy WTF. And what name should I call you by?
Hello, Dr. Judy. You could call me by the name of Bob.
Hi, Bob. How you doing?
I'm doing well, considering a lot's been going on. Yeah, I was listening to your show, and even after doing the mind map, I did dismantle so many of my negative core beliefs.
Yeah,
but I've noticed how I've noticed how it affected the way I would communicate with people, even in small talk. There are times that I would think I wouldn't trust people, even if they were trying to be nice. I always felt someone was out to either exploit me, or a lot of it just came from having thinking about, my past, where I am now, and then just I guess the word you could use is apathy, of just always telling me, I would, try to even speak as a young person, and I would see the eyes roll, like it was just that would be, I could see how my presence was annoying to the quote family around me, that they just, even doing little things like to the laundry. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is going to sound crazy. I had to learn to do laundry when I moved out in my mid-30s. I mean, I would go and try to do my laundry, and they would say, just get out of here. You don't know what you're doing. Get away from me. So it's like every little thing, I always felt, just like I started my whole life new from doing your show and the mind map, and now, I was talking to someone today, and I don't know why. I saw a little bit of my old self. Like, this person, they asked me about Mother's Day. I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, do I lie or do I tell the truth? And I think I was overanalyzing it. A lot of it has to do with overanalyzing when you grow up walking on eggshells.
Okay, so let's go back to your past, because we're talking about these negative core beliefs that disconnect us. And in your case, because we've spoken many times and you've been on the show many times, and some of the audience is familiar with how cruel your family was to you. And so in your case, your family blueprint created these disconnects. And so you were in a very, very toxic environment. So you weren't simply projecting on them meanness and apathy and actual cruelty. They acted that way to you. Okay, so in your case, I think it was appropriate to get the heck away from them and establish your own life. Okay, but now comes new individuals, right? And now you've got the injuries of the past and remnant core beliefs. Like, I would imagine after what you've been through, one of them must have been at some point in time that you're not important, or you don't matter, or that you are unlovable. Okay.
It was to the point when I really didn't even feel like I should have been born to that family. And I remember one of the last words when I saw that there was such manipulation and con artists going on, that I did mention to one of my parents, why did you even have me? You should have stopped with your daughter.
I mean,
why did you even have me?
There's no more horrible core belief that I could think of. I'm sure there are, but to tell a child, I wish you were never born, is about the bottom of the barrel. Okay, so now we're taking what happened to you at the causal level, I like to say, because at the blueprint family level, and now you go into the world with a little bit of paranoia, like, are other people like my parents? Is this really a cruel world? Well, the truth is that some people are and some people are not. However, if you've got this filter, I was talking about the filter of the negative core belief between you and the other person, then that other person can easily trigger some of these leftover core beliefs, and it doesn't take much. I'll give you some examples from just some general examples. So let's say somebody has a core belief that you only love me for what I do, not who I am. And the wife says to the husband, or one partner says to the other, honey, could you you didn't take out the garbage yesterday. So they don't hear that as a factual thing. They don't hear like, oh, I didn't take out the garbage. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. Let me do that right now. They don't hear that. They're trigger happy. Remember, the template shadows over, and now it's like, what? You mean all I'm good for is what I do for you? What, is that all I am for you? So you have to be really, really careful to be very, very vigilant about any remnants of these core beliefs, because can you see how this could derail the conversation? And then the other person is going, huh? I just told you that I'm a little upset that you didn't take out the garbage, and now you're going down this yellow brick road of I don't matter to you, and I'm just I see you as a human doing and not as a human being, and what the heck? And now it creates this other reaction to that, where the other person also has their negative core belief, and now those core beliefs start getting activated. And if the other person's core belief is, let's say, I have no voice, then they're going into their world and saying, see, I knew it, you never hear me, I have no voice, I'm not important to you, I don't matter to you. So can you see how these two people start clashing, and there's not an interconnection here? So that's what I mean by derailing the conversation. So maybe, Bob, you could give me some examples of some remnant core beliefs and how in the here and now, I'm not talking about your family anymore, that's the template. Right. Okay, so let's skip to 2023, and you're with friends or coworkers or strangers.
Well, yeah.
Give me examples.
I just, okay, I'll give you an example. I just had a procedure done to my shoulder, like a minor surgery that I got injured at work. And it happened Tuesday. And one of them was that they said, we have an intern that wants to watch the surgery done to your arm, the procedure. And I kind of felt like I don't want nobody looking at me or being operated on. I kind of felt a little bit of insecure or violated. And then the flip side was someone said, oh, well, the person is only trying to learn. And I'm like, why didn't I think of it that way? Why I kind of just jumped to the conclusion of.
Beautiful example, because, right. Okay. So that's what interns do, right? They stand beside the doctor who supervises them. They're their educators, and everyone is an opportunity for them to look to see how the doctor is doing. And in a perfect world, right, we're on the side of learning and education so that the next person they operate on, or in the future when they operate, they'll be really, really prepared, right? So in that sense, it's a gift, isn't it? Correct?
Yes, and I didn't want the person in the room. I just felt a lot was going on, and I was kind of nervous about the surgery. But then I'm like, I just kind of felt like maybe a remnant of a violation of just being raw and exposed, and helpless. Like, and I don't want to feel like a victim or helpless. I was under anesthesia, and I'm thinking, I just felt like I would have been helpless and out of, not in control.
Okay, so I want to back up for a minute, because first of all, doctors have to be very sensitive to asking the patient permission to have an intern present, and they have to a little bit explain, look, you have the right to say no if you're not comfortable with it. We're perfectly okay with it. And at the same time, we would really appreciate it because this person is new to the profession and he or she wants to learn. Okay. So it also depends on the sensitivity. If they're just kind of like putting it on you, like, oh, the person's here, they're going to watch the surgery, and you're just like, whoa, 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 I could see how you could feel violated. All right. So.
Yes. Well, they asked me once, and then I said, nah, I just want to get it over with. That's fine. But then when they asked me again, it was a different, like one of the head nurses, and she kind of felt very pushy, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. So I just kind of, I didn't look at it as the side of the person learning. I kind of felt like I was just being pushed into something that I didn't want to do.
Okay, in that
And
case, I'll put it on the people and how they presented it, because they've got to, patients, especially when they're going into a procedure where they are giving up control, okay? Because in families, we as babies, we give up, as children, we give up control to our parents, and we hope that they run a smooth operation, pun intended, correct?
yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay, but in your parents' case, they didn't run a smooth operation. They ran a manipulative, cruel, degrading operation on you. So I could see how that
But,
template might come into the picture. And truly, it's up to the professionals around you to make you really feel comfortable and to give you choices. So I think that if that's not handled well, they have something to learn about patient professional relationships there. Okay, but let's say they did do a good enough job and they gave you choices and they explained to you, and then there was still this template. Now you could see more clearly that what was running interference and derailing the situation was broken trust from the family, feeling that you're not in a safe world, feeling that people don't really value or truly care about your well-being. Okay, so could you see how
and,
all garbage you
and, and,
pass?
and also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to throw in, just being objectified and just kind of, not being in control and having someone just kind of, a loss of control and someone else controlling the situation. I think that's what it was, a lot of. But I'm sure if it's all about the way someone could present themselves to you. I mean, if the doctor would have came up to me and he said, Robert, in a less pushier way, I'm sure I could have. I still don't know, because if you're having a procedure done and you're sedated and you're in a hospital gown and you're already partially exposed, there's a loss of power. And I think that could have been it, because one person said you could have used it for someone's education, but then I'm thinking that it was my right to say no. And maybe next time when I get my other procedure done with my other shoulder, I might change my mind, but who knows, I see like these little, I'm dismantled, so much is dismantled, and I'm able to just talk about things without feeling anything like being triggered. But now that I have to switch careers, because if you remember, I asked you to do a show about toxic jobs, and you said, well, you just got to change if it's that bad, and I wind up getting injured. So now I'm at another precipice in my life to just starting new all over again. So it's I don't feel stressed out though, because of all the work that I've done with you. I feel very confident in whatever happens, and I think that has to do with all of the work I did and all of the shows that I've watched, that I don't feel like I would years ago. I feel very positive, like I'm able to just put a positive self-image.
Bob, you have worked so hard on yourself for so many years, and I think
Yes.
that you recognize that you were in a toxic environment at work, and no amount of skills is going to really fix it if it gets that stinking bad, right? You just have to pull out, especially when you're easily injured or emotionally injured, not only physically injured. And there's a difference between your negative core beliefs derailing you and a bunch of people who are not kind and not in a not creating a supportive system, and you have every right to pull out and do something new. So good for you that you have, and good for you that you're at the precipice of something else, because it can't get any worse than what you've been in. And I hope that you get some disability to support you while you're down. And I also want to wish you well. I hope this heals well for you and goes well for you, and you get your strength back and clear your mind and put yourself into something healthier. Back to what I want to educate the audience about. There are people who are listening.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And for those of you who are listening, who are educators and nurses and doctors and dentists and people, anybody in the public, just remember that when you're in a power position over them, then you have to really, really be careful about being respectful and asking permission and getting their consent, and being kind, so that the power differential doesn't trigger off unsafe worlds and controlling parents. Because we're all in it together. This is the human race. We're not doing so well, and we all have to be very, very vigilant and in a kind way, to know that we're dealing with who knows what in another person, just who knows what. So the best we could do is be as human and humane as possible and respectful as possible, so that we don't trigger off people's panel 1 wounds of verbal abuse and physical abuse and emotional unsafety, and put them in fight and flight and freeze and fawn and amygdala reactions, and then trigger off horrible core beliefs like, I don't matter to you, I'm just a piece of meat, right? Okay. So,
yes. And there's a lot of anger in the world that, even it's not what, it's how you deal with the way people react to you. But it just seems that we're not in the best place in the world we're living in right now. There's so much bad news, and you try to have some peace of mind, and it is a job in itself to just stay on balance and not go on like an eating binge or something like that, to just panel to self-defense, where you isolate yourself. And there's a lot going on in the world, and it takes even our own strength to not let it pull us down, because there's a lot of challenges, just people just being angry and turning on the news. It kind of feels like there's no safe space. We have to create it for ourselves, and I find that if I'm in my room or just sitting with my dog on my lap, and that's my little sanctuary, my little slice of unconditional love, And I wanted to say I love you for all you've done, and thank you for always giving me the opportunity to speak, because I become my own enlightened witness. Yes. Hearing myself.
Now you do. Now you are. And, I'm so glad that, you know how much I love dogs, and so do you. And I use Toto as in the Wizard of Oz as part of my metaphor of the mind map journey. And for those of you who don't have a copy of my book, you can pick up a hard copy at Amazon.com. Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. And the PDF is free. Just ask for it, email, and we'll send you one. And my point to you, Bob, is that dogs are just such miraculously loving creatures. I have a more mature German Shepherd who is just fantastic, unless you try to get into my house, and then she'll probably eat you for dinner, lunch, or breakfast, or just to snack. Okay. And I feel very secure having her around. Of course, I have to be careful of making sure that she doesn't hurt anybody. And then I have a puppy, a beautiful golden retriever, who's the cutest thing.
Oh, beautiful.
It's adorable, except that he's in puppy stage, and I'm now down 4 pairs of shoes and about 6 shirts, and he even ate a dollar bill because he's got very, very expensive taste. Okay. And and in spite of it all, I just adore the little guy. And that just there's such a, I don't even know what to call it.
It's a healing force. They give us this healing force of love that even maybe the most enlightened people, and it's funny because when I got my dog, I was sending me pictures, and my dog is part golden retriever, and they just have such a personality of their own, and it's just even like a perfect quote, well, family dog to just, or whatever family you want to make. They just brighten the whole room and just help you so much on your journey to just having just some peace of mind and just feeling that goodness in the world and just sitting on with the dog.
Very much so.
Funny sometimes.
Right. You've got your Toto, and I think that we are to connect, and we are wired for love, and sometimes human beings are not well enough to open their hearts and to truly love. And so dogs are special little angels that can give us this. And what I wanted to say to you, Bob, is I'm so glad that you have your dog, and that you're bonded, and that you're able to have that safe, quiet space with her and just love her up, and peace in your life, and be able to exercise this flow of heart. And I'm just so happy that you went for it. I remember talking about it with you years ago, and now you and her are just so bonded, and it's been so healing for you. And so for those of you who can have a pet, I highly recommend it. And there's so many beautiful dogs in shelters, and it is a fact that dogs lower your blood pressure, and they help you to self-regulate your emotions, and they give you that eye contact and skin contact that we all need, thanks to Dr. John Bowlby and his research on mother-infant connection and family connection. We all need that touch, and we all need that eye contact. And the human race is not very good. I mean, look at all the people on their cell phones and their computers, and disconnected, and childhood.
It's very isolating.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The human race is very isolating, and I just wanted to leave a note that when I was doing the mind map, and you mentioned in, I believe, the paradigm shift, that unconditional love is the most healing force in the universe. And even though I learned it through the mind map, I wasn't able to fully experience it for myself until I got my my dog. And then I felt my whole body chemistry just change, and I felt this smile that I didn't even think was resurrected from this little beautiful creature. And sometimes knowledge, it's like saying, she gave me that feeling where I knew that unconditional love was the answer, but I didn't feel it until I had it in my life. And
yes,
but
yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for your well wishes and all this, and all the work that I've done that even leads me up to now. And it's still a journey, but I feel so much more ready for whatever happens. I don't feel like I have a lot more self-control and self-confidence that, I know that there's a lot of dark in the world, but there's also a lot of light. And just to, put up those walls, and follow your gut instinct, because that's where the second brain is. One doctor said, I heard that
Yes, and the opposite of derailment is connection. If you look at panel number 4, right? It's a metaphor for derailment. We're disconnected. We're in this kind of a toxic environment. We're upside down, discombobulated, disconnected, in chaos. Okay. And the opposite of that is panel number 7, which would be interconnection, paradigm shift, where two people come together, whether it's a human and an animal, or whether it's a mother and a child or a family, and there's light in the middle, and the light represents synergy, or it represents connection, and it represents the 1 + 1 is greater than 2 phenomenon, meaning that you and whoever else are partners in growth. And because of their presence in your life and your presence in their life, it makes each other better. And then it brings more light to the world. And so that's the opposite of the derailment. And the more clear-sighted we are, the more we manage these negative core beliefs, and we're not just a bunch of reactors and triggered by old templates. The more clear-sighted we are, the more we can connect. And if we're not quite connecting, we can actually enter into a proactive conversation, like what actually did you hear me say? And, how did I hurt your feelings? How did I disconnect from you? And we're never going to connect perfectly automatically. I think it takes a little bit of processing and back and forth conversation and clarity. But the more we handle the shadows of our past and our reactions and these horrible core beliefs that just color the world, I think the more we can stay emotionally regulated and then be more relatable to each other and more understanding of each other. And I like to say to everyone, I repeat this to myself as much as possible, it's not what other people do to you, it's what you do with what other people do to you. So if you've got these negative core beliefs standing in your way, then it's you generating this cracked lens of perception and continuing the psychovirus of, well, she treated me or he treated me this way because I don't matter and I'm ugly and I'm stupid and I'm unlovable. Okay, so go back to the cause, see where that came from, and then put it back to the past. And then you could start shining the truth on these lies and dismantling them. Because remember, and I say this in my book, identify the lies. Don't identify with the lies. Okay, so pardon me?
And I believe, yes, I believe that is where I did have a huge breakthrough, where instead of saying, instead of giving myself all of these labels, it's like, okay, that happened. I moved on. I learned from that. I'm not detached to that. I am an observer, not the absorber. I'm watching the tornado, but I'm not in it. And I'm not going to identify with any of that anymore, because that's breaking free from the shadow. And I'm not constantly labeled by that for the rest of my life, because I'm changing and growing and evolving for the best, and not just saying, he still has, PTSD, or he still has anxiety from that, where it's not a lifelong sentence. You can break free from so much of this if you really want to, and it takes hard work, but it's worth it.
It does. And also I wanted to announce to everybody that next week I'm going to have a very special guest on, Amy Redford, Robert Redford's daughter. And she and I met.
Oh, wow.
I know, she's a lovely, intelligent woman. And she interviewed me in Utah because they're doing a whole series on unveiling narcissistic abuse. And they interviewed, I don't know how many, 20 some odd experts on narcissism, and I was honored to be one of them. And they're launching their videos sometime in June or July. And so I really like her, number one. I think that she and I wish we could spend more time together. I think she lives in Utah, so we're not exactly around.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So she's going to be on the show. So everyone, please catch the show, because it'll also, I'll have her announce how to link into this series that this production company, Jeffrey Hayes Production, has been working on for many, many months and editing. And so we're going to sort of tag team a little bit and help people heal from narcissistic abuse. And then she's talked to so many experts now that I want to hear from her what she's learned, and she can talk about that to my audience. And then everyone can avail themselves of this link that will be available on a certain launch date. And then you can watch the interviews. And one of the interviews is with me. And it was so much fun just to be there and talk about my favorite subject. So I want the audience to know about that. Okay, so just remember, everyone, that you can download a free copy of the PDF, Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect. And then you can also buy my video series, The 9-Panel Journey to Healing, which I think is really a great investment, because it's me breaking down the entire mind map, connecting the dots. You get the journal with it, obviously the PDF of the book, and then I take you step by step through the mind map. I'm very big on psychoeducation, and I think that everyone can learn how to analyze themselves, and, as I like to say, think like a shrink. And then if you've got leftover processing to do, you could certainly avail yourself of help from a team member. And so in the meantime, Bob, again, I wish you a lot of healing. And audience,
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. And audience, I invite you all to join in next week with Amy Redford, and she's quite a lady. And her dad, impressively, I believe he owns Sundance Film Festival. Pretty impressive family that she comes from, and she's a gift. So can't wait to have her on the show. And I hope everyone is learning. And every week I'm inspired with different topics, depending on what strikes me as I talk to people. So Bob, thank you so much for sharing more.
Thank you, and good night, and thank you for letting me share my experience, and God bless.
God bless. Okay, everyone, so I'll see you next week, and please tune in. And again, don't forget, the PDF is free, FREE. Download it, connect, and we'll send you a copy. And if you want that hard copy, just go to Amazon.com. Be the Cause, Healing Human Disconnect, and always enjoy disseminating information. So thank you, everyone, and good night.